You open your eyes for the very first time, and here we are. You've just been born in a cramped, cold cottage somewhere in rural England. It's 1503, and congratulations, you're a peasant. Your father's a blacksmith, your mother died during childbirth, and you have approximately 0 prospects in life. Several women from the village huddle around you, checking to make sure you're healthy. "He's a strong one," says the midwife. Little does she know, your strength is about to become both a blessing and a curse. Fast forward to age 5. You're playing in the dirt outside your father's smithy when a group of well-dressed men on horses ride into your village. They're scouts from the royal court, and they're looking for something very specific: a healthy boy around the same age as the young prince. Your father watches nervously as they examine several boys in the village, checking their teeth like they're buying livestock. When they get to you, one of them nods approvingly. "This one will do. Strong constitution, good bones. He'll survive the beatings." Wait, what? Your father's face goes pale, but he doesn't protest. You can't protest when the crown makes a decision. The scouts explain that you've been chosen for a great honor. You're going to live in the royal palace and receive an education alongside the prince. It sounds amazing until they mention the one tiny little catch. Whenever the prince misbehaves, you're the one who gets punished, physically punished, with rods, whips, and canes. Welcome to your new job as a whipping boy. Your father tries to look at the bright side as you're loaded into a cart. "Think of it, son," he says, forcing a smile. "You'll live in a palace, you'll learn to read, you'll eat real meat." He conveniently leaves out the part where you'll be regularly beaten for crimes you didn't commit. "Thanks for the pep talk, Dad." You arrive at the palace at age 6, and holy hell, it's bigger than your entire village. There are more rooms than you can count, servants everywhere, and food, so much food. You've never seen this much food in your life. A stern-looking woman named Mistress Hartwell takes charge of you, leading you through endless corridors to a small room next to the prince's chambers. "This is where you'll sleep," she says, gesturing to a simple bed. By peasant standards, it's luxury. There's an actual mattress, not just straw on the ground. You'll attend all lessons with Prince Edward, eat your meals with him, and be his constant companion. Do you understand? You nod, even though you don't really understand anything. "And when he misbehaves," she continues, her voice dropping, "you will accept your punishment without complaint. The prince must learn that his actions have consequences. You are teaching him responsibility. You're 6 years old and you're already being told that your purpose in life is to suffer for someone else's mistakes. Off to a great start. You meet Prince Edward the next morning. He's your age, with fine clothes and an expression that suggests he's never been told no in his entire life. He looks you up and down like you're a new toy. "You're my whipping boy?" he asks. "Yes, Your Highness," you reply, bowing the way Mistress Hartwell taught you. "Good," he says with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. "Then we're going to have so much fun." Oh no. Your education begins immediately, and you have to admit, parts of it are incredible. You learn to read and write, which is something less than 10% of the population can do. You study Latin, mathematics, history, and theology. The royal tutors are the best in England, and for a peasant boy, this is an opportunity beyond imagining. You're learning things your father couldn't even dream of understanding. But Edward is a spoiled prince. He doesn't actually want to learn. Edward fidget-string Latin lessons, throws ink during penmanship practice, and falls asleep during theology discussions. And every single time he misbehaves, you're the one who pays for it. The first time it happens, you're 7 years old. Edward decides that Latin is boring and starts flicking pieces of paper at the tutor instead of conjugating verbs. Master Wycliffe, the tutor, turns bright red but doesn't dare reprimand the prince. Instead, he looks at you. "Whipping boy," he says coldly, "present yourself." Your heart is pounding as you walk to the front of the room. You're told to bend over a desk and grip the edges. Master Wycliffe delivers 5 sharp strikes across your backside and legs. Each one feels like a line of fire, and you bite your lips so hard it bleeds because you will not, absolutely will not, cry in front of Edward. When it's over, you return to your seat, trying not to wince. Edward is watching you with an expression that's hard to read. Is it guilt, curiosity, amusement? You can't tell, and honestly, you're too focused on the burning pain to care. That night, lying on your stomach because sitting is agony, you wonder if your father's blacksmith shop was really so bad after all. At least there, you only got hit when you actually did something wrong. By age 10, you've been beaten more times than you can count. Edward has discovered that he faces no personal consequences for his actions, which has made him even more insufferable. He forgets to do his homework, you get the rod. He talks back to a tutor, you get the rod. He sneaks out of lessons to play in the gardens. You get the rod. The injustice of it burns almost as much as the beatings themselves. You're a better student than Edward. You actually pay attention, complete your work, and try hard in every lesson. But none of that matters. Your role isn't to succeed, it's to suffer. After a particularly stupid decision leads to another beating, you finally snap. You know this is your fault, right? You say to him that night when you're both in his chambers. I got beaten because you were being an idiot. Edward's eyes widen. Nobody talks to him like this. For a moment, you think you've gone too far and he's going to call the guards. But instead, he laughs. You're right, that was rather foolish of me. It's the first time he's ever acknowledged responsibility for anything, and it marks a turning point in our relationship. Slowly, gradually, Edward starts to see you as something more than just a human shield for punishments. You become actual friends. At 13, your life takes another unexpected turn. Edward starts deliberately misbehaving less, not because he's afraid of you getting hurt, but because he doesn't want you to get hurt. It's a subtle but important distinction. The court notices too. The beatings become less frequent, which some see as a sign that the whipping boy system is working. But here's what they don't see. You and Edward have developed your own private arrangement. When he messes up, he still allows you to be beaten in public to keep up appearances. But afterward, he sneaks medicine and ointments to your room. He shares his favorite foods with you. He even started taking some of his lessons more seriously because he realized that when you both do well, nobody gets punished. Is it still deeply messed up? Absolutely. But you've learned to survive in this bizarre situation by turning your tormentor into something resembling an ally. At 15, you're no longer just Edward's whipping boy. You're his confidant, his conscience, and occasionally his voice of reason. When he's considering a particularly stupid decision, you're the one who points out the consequences. Not the consequences for him, but the real-world consequences for actual people. At 18, Edward officially comes of age and no longer requires a whipping boy. You should be free to leave, to return to your village or forge a new path. But by now, you've spent more time in the palace than anywhere else. You can read, write, speak Latin, and understand courtly politics better than most nobles. You're educated, refined, and completely out of place among peasants. Edward offers you a position as his personal secretary. It's an incredible opportunity, a peasant boy becoming a member of the royal household staff. But it also means you'll never truly escape your role. You'll always be the boy who took beatings for the prince, and everyone at court will remember that. You accept the position because, honestly, what else are you gonna do? Return to your father's smithy and spend your life hammering horseshoes? You've seen too much, learned too much, and become too much of a different person to go back to that life. Over the next several years, you serve Edward faithfully. He becomes a respected member of the royal court, known for his wisdom and surprisingly progressive views on governance. People whisper that he's unusually considerate of common people, that he thinks carefully about the consequences of his decisions. At 30, you're present when Edward is negotiating a new law about criminal punishment. A harsh nobleman suggests implementing more public floggings for minor crimes, arguing that harsh punishment deters misbehavior. Edward immediately shuts him down. Punishment without connection to the crime serves no purpose except cruelty. It teaches nothing and helps no one. You catch his eye across the room, and he gives you the slightest nod. You both know exactly what experience taught him that lesson. At 45, Edward has risen to become a powerful duke, and you've risen with him as his most trusted advisor. You've helped negotiate treaties, manage estates, and navigate the treacherous waters of court politics. You've also married, had children, and built a life that no peasant boy could have imagined. But sometimes, late at night, your back aches where old scars never quite healed right. Your children ask about them, and you tell them you got injured in an accident as a boy. You don't tell them the truth, because how do you explain that you were beaten regularly for someone else's crimes, and somehow, inexplicably, it led to one of the most successful careers a commoner could have? At 55, you're present when Edward becomes gravely ill. You sit by his bedside, and in his fevered state, he grabs your hand. "I'm sorry," he whispers, "for all of it. For every time they hurt you because of me." You squeeze his hand back. "You learned from it," you tell him. "You became better because of it. That has to count for something." "Does it?" he asks. And you can hear decades of guilt in those two words. You think about it carefully. Did your suffering serve a purpose? Did it genuinely make Edward a better person, or would he have become that person anyway through different means? Is it ever acceptable to hurt someone to teach someone else a lesson? I don't know, you admit, but it's the life we lived and we made something decent from it. Edward passes away a week later, and at his funeral, you're given a place of honor, usually reserved for family. Because in a strange, twisted way, you were family. You were the person who suffered alongside him, who shaped his conscience, who turned a spoiled prince into a thoughtful leader. You live another decade, comfortable and respected, surrounded by your own children and grandchildren. When you pass away at 65, you're buried in the royal cemetery, an honor virtually never given to someone of common birth. Your gravestone doesn't mention that you were a whipping boy. It simply says faithful servant and trusted counselor. But everyone who knew you knew the truth. Your life was built on an absolutely insane system where one person absorbed physical punishment for another person's mistakes. It was unjust, cruel, and completely medieval in the worst way. But somehow, impossibly, you took that injustice and built something meaningful. You became educated, influential, and a force for good in your own right. You turned being someone's human shield into being someone's conscience. You transformed institutional cruelty into personal power. You made the system work for you, even as it was designed to break you. Not bad for a kid who started out as a literal punching bag.